Good evening, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Sports Talk for You. I am your host, Aaron Bell. I have my co-host, Adam Parker, with me. Armand Ely will be here shortly. Um, we have a special guest today. His name is Raider Cody. You can visit him at Raider Cody on Twitter and also at his podcast at Raider Cody Pod. Welcome in, Raider Cody. Hello, Cody.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, coming in from quarantine California over here. We like to just lock ourselves down all the time. That's what we do. But luckily, we this is our favorite hobby. Doesn't matter. You could lock me in my house the rest of my life, and I'll still be in here talking some Raiders football. So let's do this.
You got a nice little setup there. I like the background. I mean,
home away from home.
Yeah.
You do. Oh, you like the background? That's good.
Well, yeah. you know what I mean.
No. Thanks. Yeah.
But, Cody, go ahead and I just want to ask you a question because we know with your guys' move this year now to Las Vegas, and of course, first year there and possibility there won't be no fans in the stands, but how's the fan base in Oakland handling this move to Las Vegas?
The fan base in Oakland was a little rough with it, as you know they should be. I try to put myself in their shoes because I live about 4 hours away, 3-4 hours away. I go to games frequently, but I try and think like, man, if the team was 10 or 15 minutes away from my house, like how would I feel them leaving? I'd be kind of frustrated. Like it's a very good convenience to have. So when they left, I think that there was a small portion of the fan base that didn't follow just because I think, their fandom lied in going to games on Sunday, spending time with family, barbecuing, doing whatever they did. I'm sure they'll still follow the team, but it's not really going to be anything like what they, of course, had before. So I think they're handling it pretty well. And I think, Vegas is kind of taking us on and in a good way with a full head of steam. And it seems like the NFL's really kind of bitten onto it. 4 years ago, it didn't seem realistic, right? Like, would you think 4 years ago that a football team would be in Vegas? You're like, no, it's Vegas. Like it doesn't work.
And then
it's working
to go along with it.
Yeah. And it's working out pretty well. So I think we're excited.
I do got one. Sorry, I got one question I want to ask you real quick.
With the gambling, restricting being lifted, the NFL and you see a lot of other sports, major sports teams going to Vegas. You got the hockey team, the Golden Knights that my Washington Capitals beat last summer in the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Maybe want to add that. And then now you have the Raiders in that awesome, exciting new stadium. That stadium was nice.
Oh, it's very nice. And I've had a pretty good look at it when it was almost done, and I mean it's a crazy looking stadium, something that we've been longing for. You guys, are probably pretty familiar with the Oakland Coliseum. It wasn't nothing nice. It was a piece of crap, but it was our piece of crap, so it is what it is. But now I got something nice.
Now, do you believe that the fan base will be like the black hole? Do you think the Las Vegas fan base will be as into it and as mean as they are to the opposing, because I've heard Chiefs fans are very brave to walk into that stadium there at the Coliseum.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that one turns out during the season. They can come on over. I know I got a lot of Chiefs fans myself I've been making here the last few weeks on Twitter, so they can come on over, say hi, and I don't know about the energy being the same. Not the same, I don't think anything is going to be the same. I think it can be just as good in its own way, though. And that vibe that you get, the loudness, the craziness, the aggressiveness that you get there isn't really going to be matched. But I think, Vegas will come and be, it'll clean us up a little bit. Raider fans have had this reputation for a long time with other fan bases. And when you go to a game in that stadium, it's hard to argue it, right? Through and through, whenever you really get to know us, we're really family oriented. And if you go there, if you're brave enough, to look inside, just past the cover of our book, we're a little bit more family oriented. Nice. We might yell at you. We might chant Raiders whenever you walk by, but we're not going to beat you up, So it's one of those things where it won't be the same, but I think Vegas will kind of bring a good breath of fresh air for the fan base, as well as the team, and the energy should be nice. And it's going to be cool, to be able to walk out of there and hit Vegas. So it'll be fun.
I got to ask you, when you first heard that the Raiders were moving, did it come across your thoughts that you're like, man, Now I know how the Cleveland Browns feel.
It's hard because I feel like, I mean, I was super, my dad kind of went through the move from LA to Oakland. He was originally an LA Raider fan. So we kind of like, I don't know, we're kind of used to it in a way. And it's weird because Raider Nation is so just like kind of worldwide. It's like I could see there's certain teams. I mean, take like the Rams, for instance. Luckily, I mean, they've kind of had like a small establishment still in LA. But the majority of their fans were in St. Louis. So whenever they left, I mean, it was a big hit to them. For whatever reason, I mean, Raider fans are pretty well spread out. We're pretty well spread across the nation. And luckily, you know, we're kind of going into a city that is welcome to a new team and might be, I mean, look, I mean, I might be an arrogant Raider fan, but I think that Las Vegas could be, you know, like the new, like NFL home base, man. You start having NFL drafts in Vegas. You start doing all these events. Maybe the Pro Bowl is coming right in a year or two. Once you start having those events in Vegas, you're not going to want to hold those events anywhere else because nobody's going to do it the way Vegas does that. And that doesn't necessarily tie to the Raiders. Vegas is trusted. Vegas is big enough to be a hub for the Raiders and big enough to be a hub for the NFL. So, yeah, it was a little shocking and a little different. I'm just glad it wasn't San Antonio, so I can get on board with Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I was just gonna mention that I'm from Arizona, so growing up in Tucson, which is 7 hours away from Vegas, believe me, there are a lot of Raider fans, and they're gonna make that trip. I had no clue how many Raider fans there truly were until there was debate about the Raiders in that final year. Are they going to play in the Coliseum or are they not? And one of the spots was actually playing in Tucson for that 1 year. And
Oh, that's right.
crazy. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. But I think I think it's going to shock a lot of people how many Raider fans there are down in the Southwest.
No, I agree. So we have a Chiefs fan. You're a
Bronco fan.
Bronco fan. Okay, so I'm in good territory here.
And Armand
You're
is
a Cowboys fan.
Armand is
And
a
I'm
Washington.
a Redskin fan and transition from a new name. So it could be Warriors, Red Wolves, Red Tails. Lifelong Washington Redskin fan. Even though their team name will change, I will always be a fan of Hail to the Redskins.
Yeah, I like that Red Tails thing in the reference. I think that'd be a good one.
I
Hopefully
do.
they
I
stay,
do
you
too.
know, pretty close to home. But yeah, a little off topic. But yeah, I think I like Red Tails.
All right.
I like Red Tails too.
Yeah. All right. Enough about the move. We got Cody explained that pretty good to us and the fan base. One question I want to ask you, because I know a lot of Raider fans love Derek Carr. A lot of them are hating on him, saying that he's just not the franchise quarterback. And we know that you guys went and got Marcus Mariota as a backup, but we all know he's not going to beat out Derek Carr. Do you think maybe it's time for Gruden and the owners to maybe look towards the NFL draft and quarterbacks next year? Or do you think Derek Carr still has 6, 7, 8 years left in him?
I think you will, and I think this year is going to be the year where we finally are able to decide. Whenever things are finally kind of going well, we have some continuity going for us. You can look at our past 5 or 6 years, and I mean, 2016 was great, but all the rest, I mean, you take Derek Carr out, I mean, there's maybe a handful of quarterbacks you put in there that could have made our team, you know, maybe a playoff team. I mean, really, you got Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson. There's a, you know, peak Drew Brees. I mean, he's kind of on the downfall. Guys like that, maybe you throw them in there and the Raiders could have, you know, been pushed to the playoffs. Maybe. It wasn't, you know, things weren't really going in our favor. Coaching staff was kind of just all over the place, not really throwing together a good game plan. I don't know, man. It's hard to even put it together. And whenever I look at Derek Carr, I see him as he's, I think, proven to be a borderline top 10 quarterback this last year. And I think maybe we finally have the tools this year to put him in that conversation and be a guy that, you know, we knew him in 2016 before the injuries and all the, you know, rotations, everything else going on around him. He was a top 10 quarterback in 2016. So if he get back to that, I mean, it's really hard to say, like, you know, move on. If every offseason, if there was an option, a better option, then this is a conversation I think I can have. But as we're talking now, and as we just talked this last, going into this last offseason, we talk about moving on from Derek Carr. You got to sit back. You got to think, like, for who? Tom Brady? I feel like Tom Brady had a pretty bad year last year, and Patriots fans will tell you that. He played terrible. That defense carried him, right? I mean, it was the number one turnover defense in the NFL. Come over to the Raiders, where we're the bottom 5. We're second to last in turnovers. You had the second fewest opportunities with the ball in your hands in the Raiders compared to in New England. So you see things like that, and it's like, no, you don't. There's no way you move on from Derek Carr whenever you have those options. Now, I mean, if you're sitting there and it's like Russell Wilson hits the free agent market, I'm a big Derek Carr fan, but it's like, man, Russell Wilson's a great quarterback, and let's talk about it. Yeah. But until something like that happens, and it won't, I mean, it's hard to even say. Now, next year, hey, whatever. If we have all the tools around him and he can't, deliver, so be it. Maybe we draft. Marcus Mariota's there. He's kind of healing up. But for the most part, Derek is the quarterback. And until something drastically changes, I think he will be that guy. He's committed. He's a hard worker, and a dude that, I mean, really a locker room culture change that we've needed for a long, long time. I mean, you guys have seen some of the quarterbacks that have come through here. I remember sitting through an Andrew Walter game. Go sit through an Andrew Walter game, and man. Don't even. Hey, we don't talk about that guy here. We don't bring up Jamarcus Russell here, but there's some guys. I mean, you can argue like Jason Campbell is probably a good quarterback that came through, but was just kind of one of those. He moved around the league so much, wasn't never a franchise quarterback. We never had that guy. Derek has the makeup to be a franchise quarterback. You go play in Oakland for a handful of years, deal with that turmoil, try and flip that culture around, and see how many quarterbacks still want to freaking stay a Raider. So as long as he's all in, guys, like, I mean, I'm all in on DC4 until there's an argument to be made.
He's got Henry Ruggs now, so hopefully that'll add
you look at Derek Carr's numbers, his stats is pretty solid. 143 touchdowns to 62 interceptions. He had a career high of 70% passing this past season. So it's all about getting that talent around Derek Carr, and also the defense. And I do remember that Walter game. Don't forget about Jeff George. Don't forget about that though.
Hey man, I'm telling you, I'll tell you, he's highly efficient. Just like you said. I mean, the completion percentage, he's accurate. PFF, I think, had him as like the most accurate quarterback in the league last year, behind maybe like Drew Brees or something. So that stuff's great. But where we need to improve is putting points on the board. Red zone offense, we need to get down in there. And I know Gruden's kind of been a little lax whenever it comes to stuff like that. And maybe Derek can go in there and attack it a little bit more whenever we get in the red zone and put points on the board. So that's really, I mean, I think that's the difference maker. You talk about Henry Ruggs, pop off some big plays, throw in a big play or two a game. And those are, that's how the Chiefs win. You take away one or two of those big plays a game, I guarantee you, they're not going to be near as good as they were before. It's momentum shifters, man. They just roll strictly off momentum, game-breaking plays, and that's what we're missing. That's what a lot of the league's missing, and it's a copycat league, and you can see that's where we went. We went speed everywhere. Defense, Henry Ruggs. We added some more speed in the backfield. It's, I mean, it's coming together, but, yeah, I like Derek, and I think this team's kind of heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Adam, do you want to ask him your question about John Elway and John Gruden?
So I got a theory that John Gruden and John Elway had a conversation. Heck, it could have been on the John for all I care, But I think they had a meeting, and it was like, let's just strictly go after offense and forget the defense. And so I want to ask you, were you happy with the draft picks going more offense-oriented than, say, probably previous drafts? Because I know I am. And I also think, I don't know if you would agree or not, but I think for the first time in a long time, I don't know if it's ever been done, but I would not be shocked if I saw a final score that was 63-70 this next season.
Yeah, it's turning into that. It's heavily offensive oriented. But I'm happy with us going offense because I feel free agency kind of goes hand in hand too, and we've been pretty busy in free agency the last couple of years. And going into it, by looking at the talent that was going to be available, right? You're going into the offseason for free agency. And what weapons could you have got in free agency? I mean, there was like Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, that was about it.
That's like it. I mean, there's not really any running backs available that like were really worth
You had
anything.
Sanders from the Eagles, a running back, but he's not really a powerhouse.
Yeah, there's those few guys maybe that were there to just like add on depth, but you weren't going to add anything to your offense. But then you go to the defensive side of the ball, and I mean there was corners. I mean Byron Jones coming out. I think hit gold and finally have the best linebackers we've ever had. And couldn't even tell you, maybe like 2005 or something. We got Corey Littleton, a top 10 linebacker in the league, coming out in free agency. Got him on a pretty good deal. It's cool that for whatever reason, off-ball linebackers are still not getting paid very much, but the league is totally shifting to where you need off-ball linebackers. So, you're paying these big-time, like, middle linebackers that are kind of getting lost in the game now. Whenever you're playing certain games or certain teams that are, heavy eye formations, but you start throwing some of those guys, like you throw, like a Brian Urlacher or something now against the Kansas City Chiefs, and Brian Urlacher is not going to be Brian Urlacher, you know what I mean? So you need those guys that can cover. And Corey Littleton was that guy, got him at a good price. And Nick Witkowski coming in. We added, quite a bit of depth. We added Malik Collins, interior defensive lineman, and really shored up defense. And really going into the draft, we had a need at corner, and we hit that. But other than that, man, it was cool seeing us get talent, Brian Edwards and Lynn Bowden Jr. and guys like that. So I think we hit it perfect. I like what the Broncos did too. Judy, and you guys also added that other speedy wide receiver,
Kevin
Hamler.
Yeah,
he's fast.
Who is going to be Tyreek Hill Jr. But I have one more question, follow up to kind of what you were saying. When you first heard that you guys drafted Ruggs, were you a little disappointed, like wishing you got Judy or CeeDee Lamb, or were you okay with Ruggs?
I was okay with all three of them going into it. Like I kind of had myself mentally prepared. I'd never try and fall in love with one player. But in January, I kind of came out. I do some Photoshops. I jersey swapped Henry Ruggs. Talked about his speed, and I felt like that's what we were missing on offense. I called him my draft crush all offseason. Did I think that we would pick him over CeeDee Lamb? No, I kind of thought CeeDee Lamb was going to be kind of like the tipping point, and little did we know he was the third wide receiver taken. It's kind of crazy. And then I, kind of go to find out that maybe, he was a good player in college, and you can rely on, being very talent-oriented in college, right? You can just be a pure athlete, go out there, and they're going to throw the ball up to you, and you're just going to make plays. But when it comes to the NFL, you got to be smart. You got to be a hard worker. You got to be dedicated, and they want you, to have a good personality in the locker room. I heard that he came into interviews very unprepared, very unprofessional, and didn't seem to care as much as even Jerry Jeudy. And then from, our perspective, it seemed like Henry Ruggs seemed to be the guy that was, the highest character going into this. So I could see why they made that decision, because when it comes to the NFL, we saw it with Max Crosby. He was a fourth-round talent, and he flipped it around and came out of nowhere and ended up being a good player because he has a good head on his shoulders and he loves football. Yeah. So it doesn't matter necessarily where you're getting drafted or how good you were in college. It does a little bit, but what matters is from here on out, what you do after you get drafted and how you develop and how you turn into a professional football player. So that's who I guess they felt the most comfortable with. But Judy's interesting too. I think the only reason we stayed away from Judy was because we felt like he was he gave us like Amari Cooper PTSD. So we didn't want to, go in there and get the same thing that, we've already kind of had issues with. But Amari Cooper's still a good wide receiver, and I think Jerry Judy's going to be the same way. Great route runner.
Yeah.
And as a Cowboy fan, I was ecstatic CeeDee Lamb fell to 17. I was hoping for either Judy or CeeDee Lamb. And, I was happy the Broncos got Judy, second favorite team. But the fact, like, one of those three fell all the way to 17 was just, in my book, awesome.
I know.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question. Because we know John Gruden, how good of a coach he's been. Of course, took you guys to the Super Bowl back in, what year was it, 01, 02?
01, yep.
01. How's the fan base handling that 10-year contract? Do you think he'll stick around for the 10 years, or do you think he'll maybe bring another Super Bowl or two to you guys?
Come on. me see. I lost you there a second. You still there?
Yep, you got me.
There we go. There's your audio.
Okay.
Sorry, finish that for me. How's the fan base? What?
But I mean, how's the fan base handling that 10-year contract with John Gruden? And do you think maybe he'll bring 1 or 2 more Super Bowls in those 10 years for you guys?
Yeah, we hope, man, and hopefully, I get it's a 10-year contract, but not many head coaches get like a 10-year window to, deliver. So he's going into now year 3, and it's going to be. I mean, you'd like to see playoffs.
Yeah.
You'd like to see a Super Bowl contender like by year 5, right? I mean, at that point, then it's kind of like you don't really get rid of John Gruden, I guess, at that point. But then, you kind of start making some heavy adjustments. You see what this turns into. We made a commitment, and we love John, man. It's amazing. I mean, that's what obviously Raider fans have adapted to this thing. Even if we don't have a winning season, we're still having a dang good time. So, and we love, the people that love the Raiders, and John Gruden's one of those guys. So it's interesting, but like I said, I don't want to wait till year 7 for a contender. You know what I mean? It's a 10-year contract. I'd like the majority of that contract to be a winning team. And we're, what is that? Almost like 40% through it. So we need to get to going.
Well, the good thing is too, with the AFC West being on the rise, and them adding that new playoffs or that extra playoff spot in there. I mean, I won't be surprised if the next 3 or 4 years the AFC West gets 3 teams in, because you're going to have those extra wild card spots.
We had last year. Last year just the Chiefs made the playoffs, right?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't think the Broncos did,
No.
but they were right there with us. And had we beat the Broncos that final game, and don't get mad at me, the Bronco country down there, but I think that 2-point conversion was we kind of already knew we weren't going to make the playoffs, so we went for 2. Had it been serious, I think we would have took it overtime and played it out from there. And had we won that game in this new format, we'd been 7th seed in the playoffs. So, that was just the 2 of us. And I think now we need to go back and look at the standings. It might have been the Broncos that almost slid into the 7th seed, or they were right there with us too. So this could be, what year was that? 2015 or something that we had. I think the Raiders were the only team that didn't make it, but it was like the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers, 3 AFC West teams in the playoffs. So I agree with you. Between us and the NFC West too, or some of those very competitive divisions, yeah, I could see 3 of our 4 teams going.
Yeah. Armand, did you have a question? I saw you reaching for your mute button there. Oh, okay, he didn't. Adam, you got any more questions?
Yeah, I just have something kind of random. When Gruden came in, and then you heard the Marlon Mack trade, what was your thought right off the bat?
You mean the Khalil Mack trade, or what?
Khalil Mack, sorry.
Khalil Mack trade. Okay,
Yeah.
I was confused.
Sorry.
I'm like, did Marlon Mack go somewhere important?
No,
Am I missing
sorry,
something? Okay.
Khalil.
So Khalil Mack trade. Here, okay. Since you got a random question, I got a random story. My wife is the Raiders jersey curse, and whenever I converted her into being a Raiders fan before we got married. And the first jersey I got her was a Charles Woodson jersey, right? I got her that jersey before the season started.
Yeah,
well, middle of that
jersey you could give her, man.
Hey, man, I got it, right here. Hey,
man.
Exactly. It's. I'll be wearing my Woodson jersey for the rest of my life. But that season that I gave her that jersey, he announced that he was going to retire mid-season, at the end of that season, whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess she didn't want to. She's not an invested Raider fan, so she wants a current player jersey. So eventually we waited, and she went out, and she finally, after a year or two, finally decided, okay, I'm going to get a Crabtree jersey. So she goes and gets this Crabtree jersey at the end of the season. That next offseason, he gets cut. Okay, well, there goes that Crabtree jersey. Well, then she goes and she gets an Amari Cooper jersey before that next season. Then he gets traded. Okay. This is these are all now we're getting down to maybe a month apart. So that next off season, she says, well, I'm going to get me a Mac jersey. Okay. That Mac jersey I remember sitting and I woke up, it was like a Sunday morning or something, Saturday or Sunday morning. I know it was a weekend. It's like 5:30 in the morning when he got traded, right? I got the notification on my phone. That Khalil Mack jersey showed up on our porch like an hour later. So, yeah, ever since then, no more jerseys. She tried to tell me just like a couple of days ago that she wants a Max Crosby jersey. I said, no, you can put on your Charles Woodson jersey.
Yeah. All right. I want to ask one closing question here. Now, I'm not going to be mad if you pick your Raiders, but how do you see the AFC West this year? You're 1 through 4. How do you see it happening?
Ooh, gosh, man, I'm too prideful to like say.
I don't care if you pick your Raiders, man. I understand.
No, I mean, here's the thing, man. It's like if I'm trying to be like, I guess, like realistic and base it off like how things have been. It's hard to like. How do you not choose the Chiefs, right? If you're not factoring injuries or nothing, it's hard not to choose the Chiefs.
I have the Raiders as number 2 in the conference. I have them going to the wild card.
That's where I would sit too, just because I feel like the Broncos defense improved last year. But it's going to be hard to see. Like, Drew Lock was promising, but a lot of rookie quarterbacks are, and then there's going to be this little sophomore slump that you got to work through. Can he make the adjustments? Hey, if he can, awesome. And that could be a really good football team. But I'm not going to take that to the bank. You know what I mean? If he can perform like he did last year, amazing. I think they're going to be competing with us just like they were last year. And for the Chargers, you just don't know enough about the Chargers. Like, I feel like every year they're like the dark horse, like playoff contender or Super Bowl contender. And like, they just kind of find a way to suck. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, they just suck.
I think last year they lost every game by 1 possession, I believe.
Oh, I'd imagine. I mean, we beat them both times, and it was amazing. There's no other quarterback in the league that I've probably disliked more than Crybaby Rivers. My wife didn't even know his name was Phillip, probably for like 5 years, because I just called him Crybaby Rivers like my whole life. Yeah. So
all he does is throw interceptions in key moments.
Yeah, he threw like 20 last year, right? And I think Eric Harris, our he's kind of like a depth safety, man. Kind of just like you just made him his son last year. He picked him off like I think like 3 or 4. He was like the leading receiver in one of the games. Eric Harris had more interception return yards than the leading receiver on the Chargers. So yeah, it was one of those games.
Yeah. All right, Cody, I appreciate you being on with us. Thank you for joining us. It was fun talking to you and getting to know a little bit about that Raider Nation down there.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me, man. I'm always I get on here and I talk way too much. So I'm always down to get on here and talk some AFC West football, especially with the silver and black.
Well, we hope you're staying safe through all this quarantine stuff, and hopefully this all ends and we get football to come this year, because we know how bad it will be without football.
Wear the mask.
Got his mask.
Wear mask.
So, there he is, man.
All right, Cody, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
All right, that's going to wrap up our show for today. Go ahead and like and subscribe at the bottom of the screen. We will be on later this week to talk MLB baseball and more possibly NFL, NBA starting next week. So like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thank you.